Hello, welcome to this new episode of Code Researcher. On this episode, I will be taking you through the basics in running your Flutter application. So in our previous videos, we discussed the Flutter ecosystem and then an overview of it. We also discussed the Flutter architecture. That was the theories. Now we are now in the practical section where we practically write codes, run our applications, and see them physically on our devices. So in this episode, we will be designing some few screens that we see in almost every Flutter application or every application in this world. The first screen will be a splash screen, the screen that appears when you first launch the app, and then we will have the onboarding screens, 3 screens that we first scroll through that talks about the basic functionalities or the core functionalities about the app, and then from there we will lead to a home page screen. So don't skip any part of this video, stick around and let's watch and learn together. If you are watching this video for the first time, I want you to like, comment whatever you want to comment. Maybe it might be a suggestion or it might be clarifications, and also share this video with your friends. So remember, like, comment, share, and most importantly, subscribe so that anytime new episodes are dropped, you will be the first to know of it. All right, so let's get into development. All right, so this is exactly how our screen looks like when we run Flutter application for the first time. So we have our folders structured here, which we have the Android folder, we have the build, the iOS, the lib, the Linux, the Mac OS, and all other folders. So if you are running for every applications, you can run native codes in these windows or native configurations. If it is for web, you can write native web configurations. If it is for Mac OS, you can do them here. Linux, you can do them. If it's for iOS, you can do those things here. And if it's for Android, you can do them here as well. So that is the overall Flutter folder. That's how it looks like when you run it for the first time. So as you can see here, we have our to-do. All right, in the readme, I created the app, naming it the happy app, because it's going to be a very happy project or a happy session, creating an app for the first time. And then we have a to-do. So the basic to-do in this particular session is to create a splash screen, which will contain a logo and the app name, and then an onboarding screen for the page view, which will use a page view widget with 3 steps. All right, so don't worry, you will understand everything. We are taking it at one bit at a time, so that with every living thing that we do, you will understand it. All right, so when I open the lib folder, normally our Flutter project is located in the main.dat. That is the main entry point of our project. So when we open the main.dat, this is what we have. We have the run app here. This is the main function. This is where we call the main widget that will be running for that will be acting as the entry point for the app. And then here is the widget. All right, so all this thing, we are going to run the app raw in this state to see what we have. All right, all these codes, we'll discard them soon and then create something that works for us. All right, so let's run our app for the first time and see what or how it looks like. Okay. As you can see in the console, our app is installing. And as you can see, now we have the Flutter logo, and this is how the app looks like on the very first run. All right, so when you run your app for the first time, you should have this Flutter demo home page. In the app bar, you should have this here text in the middle here, and then this button down here. All right, so when we click on this button, it's supposed to give a count of the number of times we have clicked the button. So 4, 5, blah blah blah, all the way up. So that is the basic look of a Flutter applications. All applications written in Flutter looked like this one point in time. All right, so let's go back to our IDE, clean up this whole mess, and then start something of our choice. All right, so we are going to clean this. All right, let me minimize all this, and then we are going to clean them because at this point we don't need them. Okay, all right, so now it gives an issue that this is not here. We'll take this here for now, we'll remove it, and then in this we will be returning material app. So when we inside the run app, we will rather return material app. All right, okay, and then in this material app we can now set our home, any other thing that we want to do to our app. So for now, let's go into the test and then clear this widget, because all the things we are doing here is not there. So we just have to, I think, let's just comment it out. All right, the reason why we have an error here is because the things we deleted here are somehow or were somehow linked to this page. It's just the test section of the app. This is where you write your test and all that. So that's why there was an error, because the function we were calling, which was my app, was no more existing in the main. So let's just close this and then come here. So in this material app, we will create home. So we are going to set a home widget, which will be the first screen to show when we run our app. All right, so let's go in here and let's create a new directory. All right, normally you leave the main entry free from other configurations, because that is where the app runs for the first time, and if it's occupied by a lot of stuff, the app might be slow on startup. So normally the main entry points must be as simple as possible. All right, so let's create a feature directory, and then in that feature directory we are creating a screen called splash screen, right? So in that feature directory we are creating the splash screen. Okay, yeah, so we have a splash screen, and then inside this dots we will create a stateless widget. All right, and then call it splash screen. In Flutter we have two widget types. We have the stateful widget and then the stateless widget. I'm not going to worry you about it. We'll discuss that in the coming episodes. For now, we focus on the basics. All right, so we are creating a stateless widget, and then in this widget we will call our scaffold widget. All right, this scaffold widget is filled with a lot of material designs that we will need, or that will help us in our app. All right, so the scaffold widget has a lot of material designs, both material and Cupertino designs that we can easily use in our app. All right, so normally we try to return or to start our applications or our screens with the scaffold widget. All right, so inside the main, since this becomes our splash screen, which we want to be the first screen when we launch the app, we will go inside the main and reference that as the home screen. All right, so with this, if we run the app, we should have this screen appear as the home screen. Okay, so in this scaffold, we will be returning the body. The body is a property in the scaffold widget which takes a value of widgets. All right, so we have this scaffold widget, and then we have the body, which is a property which takes widgets, all right, as an argument, or as a child. So this is what we are going to return. We will return the center widget. So this is basically aligning every element that shows in the body of the scaffold in the center of the screen. That is what the center widget is doing. All right, so every widget, almost widget apart from row and column and other few widgets, center widgets normally have a child widget. They have a child property, right? So in here we are going to have a child, and that child is basically what it means, what is going to appear inside of this center widget. That is what we are putting in this child. All right, and because we want to make sure our splash screen is working, that's what we want to test, I will only put a text in here. All right, and then replace this data with this is the splash screen. All right, this is the splash screen. Normally people start applications with hello world, but we are starting it with this is a splash screen. All right, so let's rerun our app, and then hopefully we will see our splash screen. So we go here and then run again. So as you can see, now we have our splash screen. Now if we go back to our to-do, what we are supposed to have is to create the splash screen, which is a logo and the app name, and then after that we will create the onboarding screen. All right, so let's go on, or let's move ahead and add a logo and then the app name. All right, so on this splash screen, instead of displaying this text, we have another widget in Flutter called the column widget. Column widgets and row widgets are normally used for the layout on Flutter applications. Every application is either laid out in a column or a row. Whatever you see on your app is either in a column or a row. So these two widgets are the layout widgets, very important when it comes to Flutter application development. All right, so what we are doing is this column, and then column takes more than one child. So instead of child, as we have for this center, column will now have children. It takes more than one child, and every child that comes into the column becomes vertically aligned. All right, so let's do children, and then the to-do says we need an app icon and then the app name. All right, so we have children, and then we will call the icon widget. We have a widget for displaying icons because Flutter has already packed in a lot of material and Cupertino icons. So we call this icon widget, and then it takes an icon as a value, right? So in here we'll just type the name of the icon. We either do icons dot, and we have a whole lot of icons that we can pick from. This is for material icons, and if we need icons, Cupertino icons are normally iOS icons, right? Cupertino stuff are iOS stuff. So if we need an icon that looks more like a Cupertino or an Apple feel, we want to have that iOS feel, then we will do Cupertino icons, which is this dot. Then we look for it, right? So here are the icons, few of the icons that come together already packaged into the Flutter framework, right? So what we are going to do, we just need an icon to represent our app. So let me look for something. All right, let me look for something that we can use as our app icon. All right, so I'm going to use a hair. So let's reload. So when you come here, we have two things. If you watch our first episode, the Flutter episode, we have hot reload and then reload. This reload restarts the whole app, and then this hot reload restarts only this recent state of the app. So it only rebuilds the widget. It doesn't fully reload the app. So when I click on this, the app will not rerun. The widget tree will just rebuild. This build function will be called again, and then we will now see this hair on our screen. All right. So as you can see, the hair is there, but we can't see it because we haven't given it a color. So let's give it a color, which will be orange. All right, so we have the color property that comes with the icons. We use it to decide the icon of the color of our icon. All right, so let's hot reload. Okay, so hot restarts, then hopefully we should see our icon. Yes, so as you can see, our icon is showing at the top. I don't know if you've seen it, but when you look inside the taskbar, you can see our icon. So what am I going to do now to make it appear in the center of the screen? We have two things that we can do. So when I come here, I can now decide that the children of this column should be aligned vertically in the center of the screen. All right, so it has the main axis and the cross axis. All right, so when I go to main axis alignment, which is this, align children to center. So this property here, it's saying that the children, these children in the column should be aligned in the center of the screen. So let's rerun, and hopefully we'll see our icon in the center. So as you can see, our icon is now showing in the center of the screen. But we want to make it bigger. Since it's our app icon, we want to make it look big with a little, so that it will be very visible, and then we add a text to it. All right, so the icon widgets also have a size property. So normally when you hover on a particular widget, you get a chance to see all the properties that comes with that particular widget. All right, so we will now be dealing with the size property. So let's do that. All right, so we can call size, and then the size is in double. So let's call, normally I do it times 8. All right, so 2 8s will give us 16. Yeah, 2 8s will give us 16, and then when we go again, we have I think 24. All right, so let's give 24 and see what we got. So it seems the default size is in 24. So let's jump all the way to 40 and see what we'll have. So if that is 40, then let's jump to 80. All right, So I think 80 is good. So the next thing we do is to give a name to the app. All right, so we already have a name for our app, which is the happy app. All right, so let's do that, and then we will have our splash screen completed. So we will call a text widget, right? And before you bring when you are writing in children, all right, when you are putting the children, when you are defining the children of a column, always remember that after a full implementation you bring a comma, else the IDE will throw an error. So if I should take off this comma, there becomes an error in here. So that means this comma ends the implementation for this particular widget. All right, so now let's come down here and name our app the happy app. That becomes the name of our app. Let's rerun, and then we'll see that the happy app. So we can also style a text. All right, so if you hover on the text, you have text style, and that is what we use to style our text. So we'll call the style property, which takes the text style, and then in here we can design the size, the weight, the color of our text. All right, so let's design the weight of the text and also increase the size a little. So we'll call font weight, and then font weight can be, let's say, 400. All right, let's see how small it will look, and then let's give it like 600. That should be almost boldened. All right, okay, and then what next? Let's separate our app. Okay, let's put a little space between the text and the icon. So to put a space between elements in a row or a column, you normally use the sized box widget. All right, so this size box come with two most special properties, which is the width and the height. It also has child, but when you want to use it for only spacing, you can either go for width, that's for horizontal spacing, and then height for vertical spacing. All right, so we'll enter height, and then we'll separate these items by 8.0 height, and then this is what we have. So now we have the happy app. If we rerun this app, we should have our splash screen. So we rerun the app, and then we have our splash screen. So let's go to our to do and mark this as done. All right, so this to do is done. Now we go on this. Now when we design the splash screen normally moves to, you have to automatically navigate to a new screen after the app runs. All right, so we are going to manually do that. All right, we are going to design our splash screen. We are going to manually use this particular widget at the splash screen and give it a timer, so that after a particular time the screen will automatically move to a new screen. All right, so let's do that. So the app in the widget will override the initial load. Since this is a stateless widget, we can't override the initial load, so we have to convert it into a stateful widget. All right, so stateless widgets do not have states. All right, so stateless widgets as it is do not have a taste, which means they don't have states, which means that they don't rebuild or they can't perform stateful functions, which is for them kind of reloading or changing the states dynamically based on something. All right, so stateful widgets are like static elements that do not change. The state of it do not change. Those are stateless widgets. So stateless widgets, the states of those stateless widgets do not change. But if we should go to a stateful widget implements the states, all right, the state function. So with these widgets, we can dynamically change the states of the elements in here. All right, so we can set states where this column will later become a row based on a particular argument. We'll experience or explore all these features in later episodes. All right, so in this stateful widgets, in the init state, this is when the app initializes. All right, when this particular widget comes on top of the widget tree, this is where it initializes. That's what we call initialization, when it first comes into the widget tree. All right, so in here we want to, after the app initializes, we want to dynamically navigate or do something so that the screen will automatically move to the onboarding screen. So we can do something like future, that's a function, dot delayed. All right, so future dot delayed, and then in this we will write seconds, we will write duration. So this takes a duration. All we are doing is delaying the state for some time and then performing a particular action. So we'll take duration, and then it's going to be seconds, and then let's say after 2 seconds the app should automatically move. All right, the app should automatically move to a different screen. All right, so we will say navigator. So to navigate into another screen, you call the navigator function dot. We are going to use a push because we just want to go to the next screen, or we are going to use pop. All right, so we can use the pop, which means we are taking the recent screen, which is the splash screen, out of the widget tree, and we are replacing it with the next screen that we are going to put there. All right, so we have the pop, and then when we pop, we'll take this context. All right, when we take the context, where are we popping to? So we will do that as well. All right, so let's take this off. Let me put all this in a function. All right, so let me put all this in a function. Let's run a future void function, and we will call it navigate to onboarding. All right, so because we are running in future, we will call the async on future, and then since we are running async and future, we would have to await this. So what we are saying is await for this, and then after awaiting for 2 seconds, do whatever we ask you to do here. All right, so that's what we are going to do. So let's first do this and call it navigate to onboarding. All right, so after you initialize, navigate to onboarding. Okay, so let's see, navigator dot of context dot pop. So we are going to pop the screen, and then after popping we'll move to the next screen. All right, so what we are saying is take this one off the tree and then move to the next one, but for now we would forget the pop and only use push because we are learning. We just want to move to the next screen and then do our onboarding. All right, so we are going to use push, then inside the push we'll call a material page route. We have our builder, and then this builder will return the class that we are pushing to, right? The widgets that we are pushing to. So we are pushing to the onboarding widget. All right, so let's create a new directory in features and call it onboarding. Okay, so inside there we'll create our onboarding screen. All right, so this will be a stateful widget, and then we'll call it onboarding screen, and then remember we return our scaffold. All right, so when we come to the splash screen, we are moving to the onboarding screen, but we have something here. What is it saying? Say don't use build context across async gaps. So try rewriting the code and do not use build context or guard with mounted. So it is just simply saying that whilst we are performing an asynchronous operation, make sure the operation is done before you perform a build context, or you call the context or try to do something else. So we will first do this if mounted. All right, if this widget is mounted, if everything is done and the widget is mounted in the tree, then now move to the next screen. So now you can see this is no more showing. All right, so when we come to the onboarding, let's call on the body, and then remember we call on the center. The center will have a child. That child will be a text, and then that text will say this is onboarding screen. All right, so let's rerun our application and hopefully the navigation works. Can you see that? Okay, let me rerun. We've given it 2 seconds. That after 2 seconds, navigate to the onboarding screen. So let's rerun the app. Yeah, so now our navigation is done, and then we can now focus on the onboarding screen. All right, so let's go there, and then on this screen we are going to create this, which is 3 pages. All right, 3 steps, which is like the step 1 telling us to hello, welcome to this app. Then we'll talk about the app in 3 steps. All right, so that's what we are doing on the onboarding screen. And then the readme says we should use the page view widget. All right, so when we come here in the center of the screen, we are going to call the page view widget. All right, so this page view widget takes a page controller, and then it also takes widgets, which is of a children, right? A list of widgets, which will be the children. All right, so if we call upon children, we are supposed to give it a list of widgets. All right, so let's give it the widgets. Let's say the first one should be screen 1, because we are going to have 3 screens in there. So screen 1, the second one will be screen 2, and then the third one will be screen 3. All right, so we are gonna have this, and then let's rerun our app, and hopefully we'll see it in real time. So hopefully, I believe you can see what I'm saying. All right, it's the screen 1 is appearing at the top left corner of the screen. I hope you can see that. All right, so this is what we are going to do. We are going to have to replace this. All right, so let's take the center off and then replace every element in here with center, and then hopefully this should display the elements in the center of the screen, hopefully. Yeah, so you can see we have screen 1. When I swipe to the left or right, we have screen 2 and screen 3, as you can see. So this is a page view, and then this is where we'll be talking about our screen art. All right, so we are gonna have 3 screens to handle the page view display. All right, so down here in the first screen, I'm going to create a widget that we can reuse in describing our screen. All right, so we will come down here, and then we will create a function, a private function, which will be widgets, and we'll say build onboarding screen data. All right, so this is what we have, and we are going to return a column. All right, so what we are basically doing is, instead of displaying text 1, text 2, text 3, we'll build an onboarding screen data, which will be like a widget that will take a few arguments and then display those items for us. All right, so let's remove this from here. Okay, so in the center we'll call child, and then we'll call the build onboarding screen data. All right, now anything we do in here should appear on our screen. So we'll call upon the children, and then let's first text it and say this is the screen 1 new widget. All right, so let's rebuild, and as you can see, it's appearing at the top. So all we have to do is to align these items as we've done before, or as we did before, in the center. Yeah, so on the screen, what do? We just talk about our app, and then after talking about the app, we'll put a little button down here that scrolls to the new screen. All right, so on this screen we will say welcome to the happy app. All right, and then below it, let's style it and make it big. All right, so that the users can actually read it. Okay, so let's call style, and then text style, and then font size, we'll give it something like 24. All right, okay, and then what do we do? Should we give it a color? All right, let's give it just random color. So let's say orange, since we started with orange. Let's continue with orange. Right, and then let's, okay, so we have this, and then after this we put a little space in here. All right, because we are going to put a button so that users can click on it and then go to the new screen. All right, so we are going to have two buttons, forward and then the backward button. Okay, all right, so we are going to have a constant size box to put a vertical spacing between this and our button. All right, so 24.0, and then this button will be in a row. Now we are going to see how the row works, because we want two buttons, one at the left, one at the right. So we are going to have children, column aligns in a vertical form and row aligns in a horizontal form. All right, okay, so we are going to have children, then we are going to have icon button. All right, we have a button for icons, so we will call the icon button. We'll call the icon button, which is this. All right, so in the on press, we'll leave a to do, go to the next screen. All right, so this is what we are gonna have. And then with the icon, okay, this will be go to the previous screen. Right, and then in the icon we are gonna have icon, and then we are gonna have arrow left. Okay, so we are gonna have this arrow back icon. So let's rerun, and as you can see, we have our arrow back icon. All right, so for the row children, we will align the main alignment. We'll put a space around our children so that they wouldn't be so close to the end of the screen. All right, so we have this, and then we are gonna have another child, which will be an icon button pointing to the forward. Okay, all right, so let's rerun, and as you can see, we have back arrow and then forward arrow. Now this, we are going to use them to control the movement of our children on the screen. All right, so first we have this. Now we'll use the icons or the arrows to move to the next screens. So that's what we are gonna do. Okay, but before then, let's first do one important thing, which is the page controller. what controls this page. If we want to control the page view widget, if we want to control this, how do we do that? And that is what we are doing here. So we will create a controller, and then when we come here, this page takes a controller value, right? A controller argument. So we can just give it this and say page controller. Now whatever we do to this page controller will affect this whole page view. All right. Okay, so now this page view has 1, 2, 3 children. So if we want to move to the next screen, we just have to write some few things that will take us to the next screen. Okay, all right. Now we are creating this. We will create a list of string because we want to display this text. We are going to use this same widget to display this text on these screens. All right, so that's what we are going to do. And to do that, we'll create this string, and then we'll use that to display our items. All right, so let's say page descriptions. All right, so page descriptions, the first one will be welcome to happy page, welcome to happy app, and then the second one will be this is the second page in the happy app, and then the third one will be like, share, and subscribe. All right, and subscribe to the channel. All right, so this is going to be the text that we are going to be having in here. All right, so how do we do that in here? We have an operator called the spread operator. I've taught that in previous sessions, all right, but in here we are going to do it differently. Okay, so over here we are just gonna have so we are going to use the spread operator to display our screens now. All right, so we would have 1, 2, 3, and then we'll call on the list of items. All right, so the list of items is the page description. Okay, and then you do map each data. All right, each description on the page, each description on the page. So what we are just doing that is that for each description on the page, display this for us. So we will give it a return statement. So for each description on the page, return this widget. That is what we are doing. So now when we rerun this app, we are supposed to see this welcome to the happy app on the 3 screens. So let's rerun. Okay, and then we can see this. All right, now how do we display this text inside of this. So the next thing is to take this text as an argument in here. All right, so in here we will say description, and then we will replace this with the description. So when we come in here, we only have to supply the description, and then that's it. So now we have welcome to the Happy app. This is the second page in the Happy app, and then like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Now this is what we have on our onboarding screen. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is to click on a text. All right, let's click on this button so that we can go to the next screen. All right, so we will click on this, and then we will go to the next screen. That is what we are doing. All right, okay, so we can do it this way. If we pick so what we will now do is to create a current index. All right, so we'll create an integer called current index, which we will use to track the current index of the page. All right, so in here we will say on page changed. All right, this function returns an index when the page is changed. That means an integer when the page is changed. So on page changed, we will set current index should be equal to the index of the new page. So when we move this page to the next one, this index should automatically update to this one. All right, so when we scroll the page, the current index should be equal to the new index. That is what we are doing. All right, so for an forward navigation, we'll first do the forward navigation. Okay, so we'll first do the forward navigation, which will be, because we want to make sure that this, all right, because we want to make sure that when we scroll to this, we are going exactly to this page. We will now use their index to track them. Okay, so we are saying if the description, all right, so if the description we are getting from here is equal to the description from this, all right, so I am doing it this way. In our later videos, we'll see the best way to do this. All right, so if the description from there is equal to this description, okay, so we are basically saying, okay, let's start from here. If the description is this, then jump to the next screen. All right, so we'll call the page controller dot jump to page, and then it should jump to page 1. Okay, so we are saying this is page 0. If we are on page 0 and we click the next button, jump to page 1. All right, now if we are on page 1 and we click the next button, jump to page 3. Okay, all right, So we'll just copy this and say else. All right, else if. So else if we are on page 1, so whilst we are jumping, we will also have to set the index. All right, so current index, I think. All right, so we will jump to page 1. Now if we are on this page, okay, if we are on page 2, which is this, then we are moving to page 3. Okay, all right, so if we are on the first page and we click the next button, the forward button, let's go to the next page. And if we click 2, let's go to the next one. So let's rerun our app. All right, so let's click. We are on the next page. Let's click. We are on the next page. Now when we click the previous, we haven't done anything for the previous pages, so let's do that as well. So the previous page is just going to be the opposite of the first pages. All right, so now we are saying if we are on the last page, okay, if we are on the last page, then jump to the second page. Else if we are on the second page, then jump to the first page. All right, so that is what we are doing. So if we are on the last page, jump to the second page, else jump to the first page. So that is what we are doing. Yeah, so let's see. If we are on the last page, we can't go back, but if we go to the forward, we can come back, we can go forward, and then we can come back as well. So that is all with the onboarding. Now we can say we are fully done with the onboarding as well. So let's go and mark our onboarding as done. All right, so since we are done with a splash screen and the onboarding screen, the next thing is to create the home screen. All right, so let's create our home screen. I hope you've now gotten the basics of everything, and hopefully you are learning something new. So home screen, and then the home screen is going to be a stateful widget. So we'll have our home screen, and then as usual, our scaffold, which is going to have the body of center, which will have a child, all right, called text. And then in that text, we will say welcome to the home screen. So after everything, if we are moving forward from the onboarding and then we are on the third page, then we should be able to navigate to the onboarding screen. All right, but this is how we are going to do that. Okay, all right. So if we are on the last page, then let's have a button that says done. All right, or complete. So we are going to have a text button. All right, we are going to have a text button widget which will navigate us to the home page when we click on done. All right, okay. So the child will be a text which will say done. All right, so let's refresh this. We are going to see this button that says done. All right, but we only show this button when we are on the last screen. All right, so how do we do that? We will come down here and then we can write an if else. All right, so we can say, we can do the comparison. We can say if this description is equal to this, all right, if our description is this, bring this, all right. So if our description is this, then that means we are on the last screen, so we'll display our done button. All right, that means we are on the last screen, so we'll display our done button. Else we'll display these buttons. Okay, so let's rerun our app. We have this, we have this, we have this. As you can see, now we have the done button on the third screen. So when we click the done button, what we are supposed to do is to navigate to the home screen. All right, okay. So as you can remember, we will call navigator dot the context where we are doing it from of this context, and then we are pushing name. All right, so we'll just push the next widget or next screen, which will take the material page route. All right, and then we are gonna have the builder, which will return the home screen. Okay, yeah, so this is how it's going to look like. When we reach the done and we click on the done, we should now have the home screen. So we go to our next screen, done. Home screen complete. Now we have successfully run our first Flutter application, which is the Happy app. We created a splash screen, which we can see, and then we created an onboarding screen that finally leads to the home page. A recap: we move from the splash screen to the onboarding screens to our home page. So we've learned widgets, we've understood the scaffold widget, the center widget, the text widget. We've described the stateful widget and then the stateless widget. Stateful widgets have state changes. That means they can change state in the application. And stateless widgets are widgets that cannot change states. So thank you for sticking around through this session. It's been a very great session, and I hope you've learned something new. In our next session, we'll be learning about lists, cards, and also navigational items. So always remember, subscribe, like, comment, and share, because if you're subscribed, new videos will directly hit your notification. I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.